According to Sony, the S in A7S II stands for sensitivity. After all, this is a camera with an ISO of over 400,000. But it would make just as much sense to call it the A7V for video. For as much as this is a great still camera, its feature set will be primarily appreciated and enjoyed by video shooters. This video is produced in 4K, although some up-res shots are identified as HD in the top right. I found a few minor things that I'd like to improve in the A7S II, but the video and images can't be faulted in any aspect. You can get shots with the A7S II that you can't do with any other camera. It's amazing.
On our first night at the Viewfinder in the Dominican, I took it out on the beach at 11 p.m., a couple days after the full moon, all natural light. The ISO is high, but the images are amazing, even using a standard picture profile. This is picture profile 1, which provides a basic movie gamma. The 24-70 is open to f4, so this is impressive. What I particularly like is the mood. It looks like it's dark, but everything is visible. The first A7S supported 4K video only on the HDMI out, which resulted in the sale of a lot of Atomos Shogun recorders. Now, 4K can also be recorded internally, providing you're using an SDXCU3 type card. A cable protector is included in the box to keep the HDMI cable securely connected. Nice! This part nearly makes the whole camera worth getting. It connects to a tiny screw port beside the HDMI connector. 5-axis stabilization has been implemented, providing stabilization on all 5 motion vectors. More in a minute. Stills can now be saved in 14-bit RAW. Menu page 1, select RAW file type uncompressed. This provides greater latitude in Photoshop or Lightroom. A high frame rate setting, menu page 2, records at 120 frames per second for 1/5 speed slow motion. It's silent. I'll show you a workaround for that. ISO now goes up to 409,600. Admittedly, these underline modes suffer from artifacting, but wow! The 102,000 setting is not bad, and that's 10 stops above 100 ISO. Combined with the 35mm f1.4, I was able to light Kim with a TV set and an iPad. And we didn't even need a candle to shoot in the dark. This shot with picture profile 6 Cinegami 4, which I read was good for low light. For video shooters, particularly those who are trying to emulate a cinematic look, picture profiles are a must-have feature. They're admittedly complex, not well documented, and many require color grading in post-production. The 9 picture profiles, 2 more than before, are examples, providing particular combinations of the underlying settings, press right to see the components, each of which have a multitude of adjustments yielding millions of combinations. The primary components are the gamma curves, varying the sensor's response to light, and the color gamuts, varying the range of color being recorded. In both cases, the natural world offers much more than the sensor and the recording system can capture. Gamma and gamut adjustments provide controls to select which are the most important to your image and to squeeze out just a little bit more.
Trying to explain just these 2 basic picture profile settings is a project outside the scope of this review. Even demonstrating the 10 gamma curves combined with each of the 9 color modes is a daunting project.
And just a few notes. The same picture profile settings are applied to both video and stills, and turning picture profiles on disables DRO and creative styles. If you're interested in picture profiles and gamma curves, you'll find most of the useful information by relating your search to Sony's Pro video cameras. Check my blog for links. Changing these settings while looking at the DSC Labs Chroma du Monde reference chart gives you an idea of what's going on. The Chroma du Monde is also useful as a color reference chart to match settings in post, but it's a reflective chart, so can only do so much. In addition to S-Log2, the A7S II includes the S-Log3 profile that promises a 14-stop latitude in dynamic range. I tried that on a DSC Labs Xyla chart. Going from the left, each rectangle is 1/2 the light, 1 f-stop lower. In a completely dark room, with my eye, I can make out 18 stops. The dynamic range of most screens and video cameras, according to the ITU 709 specification, is 6 stops. With picture profiles off, I think you can make out 8. Switching to picture profile 7 with S-Log2 and picture profile 9 with S-Log3, I'm seeing at least 14. What am I going to do with all that range? Use it to capture scenes with a very high dynamic range, exteriors with a bright background, like this image of Miss Warbeck reading a story. If I expose for the background with ISO 100 and shutter speed 1/60th, the aperture is at f/22, and if I expose for her with an aperture of 5.6, the background is overexposed, losing all detail and definition. So, switch to picture profile 7 with S-Log2. And of course, that records a very flat and uninteresting image, so I use the color correction in Final Cut to adjust exposure and saturation. Not perfect, but I'm still learning. Selecting S-Log2 or 3 forces the minimum ISO to 1600, which makes it very hard to maintain my ideal shutter speed of 1/60th for video. So I don't understand why Sony, which has built-in ND on many models, has overlooked that feature here. There are graduated neutral density filters to compensate, but with a variety of lenses with different filter diameters, that's an expensive solution that's neither ideal or flexible. If a scene, like a dark interior, doesn't have a wide dynamic range, S-Log won't help, and would likely reduce the quality by further compressing an already limited contrast ratio. Ungraded S-Log images look flat and dull, making them difficult to evaluate on a monitor. The A7 II's LCD has a Gamma Display Assist mode, which modifies S-Log2 and 3 images so they're not so flat looking. Choose Auto, S-Log2, S-Log3, or Off. It converts to ITU 709, which I assume is the gamma setting of the screen. Pros call these LUTs, lookup tables. It is, I think, a mistake to think of S-Log or even the Cine Gamma settings as all-purpose settings that will magically make all of my footage look better. Instead, I'm thinking of them as extended range exposure tools that will help me manage the wide dynamic range that bright exteriors present. However, I am still struggling to identify the specific scenes that would benefit from specific settings. I'm hoping that will come with experience. The nature of digital recording means that there are few bits devoted to capturing the dark parts, and lots of bits devoted to the bright parts. Most of the pro cameras with S-Log record 10 bits of information, here only 8, which does compromise the ability of S-Log to be effective. As a result, I'd suggest you err on the bright side, bringing it down in post.
5-axis stabilization compensates for horizontal, vertical, pitch, roll, and yaw.
Because stabilization is in the sensor, it works with any Sony or third-party or adapted lens. Nice. Although you may have to input the focal length on some adapted lenses. The clearest way to visualize this is to use expanded focus view while using manual focus. This is without steady shot, and now this is clearly more stable. And here's a handheld shot using the 4x digital zoom, stabilized. With stabilization on, I was able to handhold stills down to 1/4 of a second, about 4 stops less than usual. I would describe the A7's design as utilitarian, what my friend Sonia would have called orthopedic. It's solid, clean, and refined, with a very high build quality. The new metal lens mount is particularly robust. The body is magnesium with a rubber hand grip in front, thumb wrist behind. It's a good size, fits my hand nicely. The full-frame sensor has 12 megapixels. That's relatively small, but more than enough to match 4K video, which has 8 megapixels. And those large pixels get a lot more light than the smaller pixels on full-frame sensors with higher resolution. For a mirrorless or compact system camera, it's bulked up, 627 grams with battery. Add 426 grams for the relatively modest 24-70, and you're over a kilo. With the exception of the menu button on the left side, the buttons are logically and accessibly placed, better than the previous. And with the exception of the slightly small focus lever and button, they're a good size. The most used controls can all be managed with the right hand, leaving the left hand free for support, zoom, or focus. The Function button opens an overlay to adjust customizable menu for my frequently used shooting settings. Use Camera Setup page 6 to select your preferred functions. There are over 30 to choose from. I wish there were 2 of these, one for video and one for stills. There are 2 ways to use the Function menu. Press the control dial to select the function to adjust. Then spin the control dial to select. Some, like Flexible Spot, have options. Use the back dial to select those. Or press the center to open a dedicated menu for the function. By default, the front dial is aperture and the rear is shutter. Use setting page 7 of the menu to reverse them. I don't adjust exposure compensation nearly as often as ISO, so I'd prefer if the top dial had ISO as an option. The Viewfinder is placed directly over the lens. It's a 1.3 cm OLED screen with 2.4 million dots XGA resolution. The huge advantage the mirrorless A7S II offers is that, unlike DSLRs, the Viewfinder can be used while recording video.
The LCD has the required articulation for shooting low or high angles, and that's good. But other manufacturers are starting to incorporate LCDs that rotate around to be used from the front of the camera or in portrait mode, and that close to protect the screen from facial oils while using the Viewfinder.
The LCD has 2 special modes. Setup page 1 monitor brightness, sunny weather, very useful on the beach. And on Camera Setup page 6, you'll find custom settings to assign bright monitoring to a button. I switch 4 between zoom and bright, they're nicely adjacent. It only works in still modes, and it only works in manual focus. I took the A7S II into a pitch black closet. Even in an ISO of 102,000, it's dark. Activate bright monitoring and voila, my closet. Just to show how crazy good the focus and face detection is in low light, now it detects a face on a package. And this feature works on an external monitor. I'm blown away. Video can be recorded in XAVCS, AVC HD, and MP4, both HD and 4K in XAVCS. 4K 24 or 30 frames, 60 or 100 megabit data rates. That requires an SDXC card rated U3. HD 1080 at 24, 30, and 60 at 50 megabits, 120 at 160. Switching to 120 reduces the field of view. It's designed for slow motion. Played as 24 frames, that's 20% or 1/5. I've slowed this down in Final Cut. I mentioned the new HFR mode. Select it from the movie mode settings, either in the quick or main menu. In addition to program, aperture, shutter, and manual for standard video, HFR is also available in those 4 modes. HFR mode is silent and crops like 120. Its sole advantage over standard video is that you get a file that's designed to play back at a slower speed, so you don't need to take it to a video editor to adjust the playback rate. From the menu, select 30p, 25%, or 24p, 20%. Because it includes audio, I prefer shooting in HD at 120, but if you want to play it back immediately in the camera, HFR is a nice option to have. Video recording stops abruptly just before 30 minutes. In 4K at room temperature, it records that long without overheating, but if you continue recording immediately, it will warn you after about 5 minutes and stop after 9 or so. It didn't overheat in HD. The MP4 format now supports 1080 60 frames at 28 megabits. So does AVC HD. I wish the movie mode position on the dial was next to either P or M. For some settings, like capturing a custom white balance, you need to switch out of movie mode, and having panorama and custom adjacent isn't as helpful as I'd like. While we're at it, let's make panorama one of the scene modes. I custom set the white balance for movie mode, as making that kind of color adjustment in post isn't always possible. There are 3 custom white balance slots. Once selected, press right to fine-tune, which provides a much finer gradation than previous models. Once set, don't forget to switch back to movie mode. And here's my first recommended custom setting for movie. Assign Custom 1 to Focus Magnifier for a quick focus check. Use the control pad to move the expanded view window. Very useful in manual focus. This even works while you're recording. With an external monitor connected, use the LCD to check expanded focus while monitoring framing on the external monitor. Use setup page 3 to turn the HDMI info display off. The monitor displays the image without distractions like zebra, peaking, marker, or audio levels, but when I need, they're there on the LCD, along with the expanded view focus. I use the new Sony FHD5 monitor. It's 13 centimeters diagonal, 1920 by 1080 full HD resolution. The advantage of the larger screen is that, for my eyes anyway, it's easier to see the focus. Both mini and micro HDMI cables are included, as well as a sunshade, very useful on the beach. Press the control button to carousel through normal, 3 and 6 times for focus. The monitor also provides focus peaking and exposure level warnings. There are a bunch of standard settings, but what you won't find on other monitors is specific display options for S-Log picture profiles. The monitor's 2 custom buttons make it easy to switch. It doesn't power down when it detects that there's no signal, so drains the battery unnecessarily when I forget to switch it off. There's a nice cold shoe adapter with a swivel. It uses the older, larger M style or the longer lasting V-sized batteries and comes with an adapter for W, the same size used in the A7S II. Incidentally, neither battery or charger is included. Or you can connect an external recorder like the Atom Shogun and record a less compressed, slightly more pristine signal. The output is 8-bit 422, and the Shogun can record at ProRes HQ, a data rate of 750 megabits. There are some limitations and peculiarities on the HDMI out. In 4K, the HDMI output is 24 or 30 frames depending on the setting of the recording, as long as the HDMI resolution is auto or 2160. The 24p 60p output setting should be dimmed out. It doesn't work. When recording HD at 24p, use the HDMI settings to select 2160 or 1080, then set 24p output. This is the only time this setting is effective. In HD modes, the HDMI feed can be clean or include the menu overlay. No overlay or menu in 4K. As a result, my menu screen captures in this review are at 1080. On the Setup menu page 3 HDMI setting, turn Record Control on to trigger recording on the Shogun using the camera's record button. This only works in movie mode. And timecode output must be turned on. An on-screen icon confirms an external recorder is being controlled. There are multiple timecode options. Use the timecode user bit display to choose which appears in the bottom left: running time, timecode, or time of day in user bits. 4K on the A7S II is exactly twice the vertical and horizontal resolution of HD, 3840 by 2160, often called UHD, a 16 by 9 aspect ratio, not the cinema 4K resolution of 4096 by 2160. This is admittedly an academic definition, but it might be an issue for 24-frame production headed for cinema release. Video recording uses the whole full-frame sensor, which, as it's only 12 megapixels, means Sony uses a direct sensor readout, pixel for pixel to the video frame. This is generally regarded as the optimal video recording configuration.
Although not available in 4K mode, there are 2 zoom tools. First, an APS-C crop mode, also called Super 35mm. Remember that 35mm film in a still camera is horizontal, but vertical in a movie camera. So a 35mm movie frame is only 24mm wide.
In HD, the A7S II will switch to Super 35 automatically with a crop E-series lens, but it can also be forced, providing a 1.5 times zoom on a full-frame lens, effectively turning the 24-70 into a 35-105. Switching from a full-frame 35mm lens to a crop 35, the A7S II in auto switches to Super 35. When Super 35 is off, the crop lens is vignetted. Camera settings page 3, the zoom settings, enables clear image zoom, a Sony software optimized digital zoom, or full digital zoom. Once enabled, camera page 6 sets the zoom. For faster access, I've assigned it to custom button 4. Quality of clear image zoom is excellent and effectively doubles the lens's reach. Going out of the clear zoom range into digital, the artifacting becomes more noticeable as you zoom in. Again, lots of potential. Marker displays, camera settings page 1, provide a variety of on-screen composition guides, including many aspect ratios. These appear in movie mode on the Viewfinder and the LCD, but unfortunately not on an external display. In manual movie mode, M in the top left, aperture and ISO can be adjusted while recording. ISO adjustments are visibly stepped, but the aperture changes smoothly using the aperture rings on the 28-135 and 35, a little more noticeable using the front dial with the 24-70. Multi, center, or spot metering, the circle is the spot, it can't be moved. The numerical readout in the bottom of the screen indicates how far over or under exposure is. Video exposure is often best judged with Zebra, camera settings page 1. Settings in 5-point increments can be set from 70 to 100 plus. But the two new custom settings are very useful, particularly if you're using S-Log. Custom 1 for range, adjustable from 0 black to super white 109, and a range. Ideal for setting white skin tone, say 70 plus or minus 5. Zebra stripes will appear on all objects from 65 to 75. Particularly useful for S-Log, where you might like to record skin tones around 60%. Custom 2 is a flare setting, with stripes appearing on areas brighter than the selected level. With the Shogun, I prefer to use its waveform display to set levels, which provides more useful information to maximize the recording using S-Log. In video, only manual and continuous focus modes are available. Using a custom key setting, I assign AF-MF to toggle and AEL to AF on. Press function, select focus area and move the focus point. With the toggle on AF-MF, press the button to switch to AFC. When it's focus, press again to return to normal. When I need to refocus, toggle to AEL and press again. Lots of area options: wide, zone which can be moved, center, 3 sizes of flexible spot, also movable. Use the custom key settings to assign eye autofocus to a button. I use the center. When a face is detected, press the button to refine focus on the eye. Although useful, it sadly works only in still modes. Several of the effect modes work in video. Those that don't are dimmed out. Sony allows shutter speeds slower than the frame rate, a capability not found on other cameras. I rather like this blurred motion effect. The sensor seems to be less sensitive than average to rolling shutter effects.
A camera that supports interchangeable lenses.
Excellent audio support, although for pro work I do recommend an external recorder. Audio in, perfect for connecting a shoe-mounted shotgun like the Rode VideoMic Pro or a wireless receiver like the Rode Link. Using external mics can make a lot of difference. Just listen.
It's a book by Lane Smith. What do you have there? It's a book. Can you make the characters fight? No. Book. Can it text? No. Look. Arr, nodded Long John Silver. We're in agreement then.
Monitor using the headphone jack. This helps confirm quality during recording and playback. Settings page 1 to adjust the volume. Camera page 8 to set recording levels. Camera settings page 2 to display audio levels on screen. It would be nice to have these all together. Of course, there's also Sony's optional XLR adapter. I also find the optional VPR1 remote useful, enabling me to pan, tilt, and zoom with my right hand, just like pro cameras. It works with the 28-135 and provides either a slow or fast zoom. Also, start and stop recording. Did I mention the A7S II also shoots stills? Same feature set as video. But there are a few things worth mentioning. There are 2 auto modes. Switch using the function menu. The selection appears in the position where the movie mode selection was. Superior has some improved tricks for dark scenes. It should select the scene automatically in the top left, or choose scene mode and turn the front dial to select. Press the center button for more details on the 9 modes. Program mode has the shift feature. Turn the front dial for other shutter aperture combinations that also work. Shutter speeds range from 1/8000th to 30 seconds. Bulb mode is available in manual exposure. There's a quick auto manual focus switch. With this lever on AF-MF, hold down to switch to manual. For back focus, use camera setup page 4 to remove autofocus from the shutter. then assign AF on to a custom button, I use the AEL button. In video, I set up Custom 1 for expanded focus view. That happens automatically as soon as you turn the focus ring in manual focus when shooting stills. Turn this off on camera setup page 1 or set how long it holds expanded view. I use no limit, which holds the view until you soft press the shutter. On camera page 4, there's an interesting focus priority option. Select release, and the shutter fires immediately, AF, and it waits until focus is reached. Balanced provides a trade-off between the two. Nice to have these options, which are independently set for single and continuous. For stills with a wide dynamic range, Sony's JPEG-only Auto HDR combines 3 exposures with a range up to 6 EV. This is best-in-class functionality. For Auto ISO, press right to set the minimum and the maximum. Images at 6400 are nearly noise-free. Here's 64,000, but even when there is noise, it has a nice filmic quality. Use camera page 4 to set the minimum shutter speed, but there's an interesting option, Standard, or navigate to Fast and Faster, Slow and Slower. So for this scene, Standard sets ISO at 4000, shutter at 1/80th. Slower, ISO 800, shutter 1/20th. Faster, ISO 12.8, shutter 1/320. This flexibility, along with the usable high ISO in the A7S II, could make me an Auto ISO fan. For burst, Sports Scene mode shoots about 3 shots per second, slows after 30 shots. In continuous drive mode, shooting JPEGs with manual settings runs a little over 3 per second and cranks at that rate for at least a minute. I got tired when it went over 200 images. Speed priority burst ramps it up to about 5 per but slows after 20 seconds or 100 images. Even with the fast U3 card, the buffer can take up to 40 seconds to clear. Like most Sony models, the A7S II has Wi-Fi and a smartphone app to transfer images and uses a remote. There's NFC if your device supports that. I've been showing you my best images, but the percentage of keepers with the A7S II was lower than my average. Somehow I missed focus or exposure more often than usual. There are many self-timer options for 2 to 10 seconds up to 5 images, single and continuous bracket modes. The S is the only model in the A7 family that's fully silent, using an all-electronic shutter. Camera setting page 5. Unlike the silent or quiet modes on DSLRs, this makes no sound, no mirror, no shutter. The electric front curtain shutter setting is disabled in silent mode, but otherwise you can enable a mechanical front curtain by turning it off. Silent is only available in PASM modes. Among the limitations, it can't be used with the bulb shutter setting, and it's cancelled automatically if you use a smart camera app, which means re-enabling it once you leave the app. Multiple screen modes include a horizontal level, a histogram, and a viewfinder settings mode that incorporates a quick menu. Press the function button to navigate and select. Everyone loves these picture effects, and I'd be a bigger fan if the camera saved an unadulterated RAW file along with the affected JPEG. Come on, Sony engineers, you can do it! If you're wondering about the copyright C on the screen, you can set and save several fields of copyright info. And one more time, Sony's best-in-class panorama mode, and Sony's amazing downloadable smart apps. This is Sky HDR, the latest addition to the toolkit. It takes 2 exposures, one optimized for the bright sky, another for the darker foreground, and combines them. I found it complex to use, but it's an effective solution to the wide dynamic range in some still images. For most cameras, you always want to have a backup battery in your pocket. For the A7S II, I'd recommend 2 or more. There's a useful optional Sony battery grip. The A7S II can also be powered from an external battery connected to the USB port. What's left for Sony to do next year? I think that in this price class, cameras should have 2 memory card slots. They should have enough internal buffer to record at least 15 seconds of burst at the high speed, and an ND filter.
Oh, and could the 30-minute limitation be lifted? Whatever the reason, this is a problem that's been solved in video cameras. Let's apply that solution here. Please.
A few little things. I'd like to see the actual file name for reference in playback views. And just a note, Sony is the only major manufacturer where a card formatted in the camera is labeled untitled instead of the manufacturer or model.
I used the word amazing at the beginning of this review. I know that I have some usability issues and I chafe against some of the limitations, but what you can do with the A7S II is amazing, particularly for video. And for as capable as the A7 II is for stills, if that is your primary use, turn your attention to the A7 or the A7R.